Welcome back to another episode of UX Dive. I am your host, Josue. It's been a bit. How y'all doing? Let us know in the comments how y'all are doing. But in this episode, we are going to be talking about Photoshop again. So in this episode, I'm going to talk about the shape tool, and perhaps if we have time, we'll get into transformations and all that jazz. So if we jump into the Photoshop right here, I've already created a new document. So you see, it's all blank. So as per the last episode, the shape tool is down here on the left. It says rectangle tool right now because that's the default, but when you long press it, you have a bunch of other options down here. Let's start off simple. Let's do a rectangle, right? So if you see right up here, there are a bunch of parameters that you can play around with. There's the fill, there's the stroke, there's stroke width, and then there's the stroke options, which you can have custom stroke options, right? So in cases where you're creating lines, you can create dashed lines. And the rest, let's say, it doesn't really matter. This is the width and the height. Let's create a random shape. So as you can see, the shape that comes up has the settings that were shown over here. You have the fill, which is this kind of light bluish, and you have the stroke, which is black. Is that black? Let's make it black, eh? So when you're creating shapes, you're going to want to have a wide range of abilities. Especially in graphic design, you play around with the stroke. You make it as thick as you need. And you can change the stroke, and when you go to stroke options, as you see, we had the dashed lines, we have the dots, and something that's really important is that you need to align the stroke to a certain edge. So when you're designing anything with a stroke, you're going to have a choice of aligning the stroke whether to the outside, to the center, or to the inside, right? So if you have on the inside, the stroke is going to be increased going from the edge of the box, or the edge of the shape, going inwards. And you can see that as I increase this, it keeps overshadowing the blue, right? If you have it at the center, then it's going to be center. So half of the stroke that you're adding is going to go inside and half is going to be going on the outside. And then as explanatory, you have the outside, which will now just be going to the outside. So for rectangles, as you can see here, there's some dots, right? And these dots are really important when you're creating rounded shapes, right? Sometimes when you're designing, you don't want shapes which are harsh, which don't have harsh lines, shall we say, like those corners. So when you click these ones and then drag them in, you can see the rectangles start to be rounded. The edges start to be rounded. Another place you could do it at is over here on the right with the properties panel, right? You can see it right here. And this is where you can mess around with the specifics of it. You play around with, specific radius for the roundness. And all you have to do is really click this and then just drag left or right. And, you have your shenanigans that you're messing around with. With the roundness, with the radius, the corner radius, you can usually play around and unlock shall we say, the uniformity, right? So if it's, if it's locked, everything you do applies to all corners, right? So if you're changing it even a little bit, it applies to all corners. But if you remove it, now you have the choice of, changing each specific corner and, adjusting the corner however you may like. You do your shenanigans however you may want to. And that's something that's really cool and is always helpful whenever you're designing, custom shapes, just messing around with things and seeing which shapes you can create. And let me delete that. The last thing I want to talk about is, I guess let's go to a different tool, the ellipse tool. When you're creating shapes, sometimes you want to have shapes which are uniform, right? So, for example, like creating squares or creating perfect circles, right? So if you just click and drag, you see there's this kind of, it's not proportional, right? So whenever you're creating shapes, if you want to make something that's uniform and that's proportionate, when you're creating, you click and hold shift. As you're creating, you're going to be having the shape sizing up uniformly. And you have uniform shapes, so you can even see if you do the rectangle, you have perfect square, right? And that's always helpful because in design you're always needing to create shapes which are uniform and proportionate. And yeah, this is just always something really cool to do. So yeah, I mean, I think that we'll leave it there for this episode. Yeah, we hope you enjoyed. Hope to see you in the next episode. And yeah, have a good day, evening, night, wherever you may be. And yeah, we'll see you in the next episode.